Hello everyone, it is Miss Elaine again, Elaine Waterman from the Firehouse Art Center, back with a live stream virtual kids class. And today we are starting Music Week with our drawing class, and we are going to be drawing people dancing, and we are going to be referencing a famous artist who is Keith Haring. And this is a picture of him. Actually, you can see him very tiny right there. This is a mural he painted on a wall in Italy, and I believe it's actually a church. So that is a representation of his work. Also, if you wanted to learn some more about Keith Haring, you can go to a website that I found that is fantastic, and it's also really great for kids. So I'm going to pull it up because I wanted to read a little bit about Keith Haring's bio. So let me find it. So Keith bio, and I recommend that everyone who is watching this go to his website, this website specifically, haringkids.com. So HARINGKIDS.com, and it has information about Keith Haring, and it's kind of written for kids to understand. And there are also lots of, hi Joshua, there are lots of lessons and drawings and representations of his art there. So, but as far as his bio, I'm going to read a little bit of it. So Keith was born on May 4th, 1958. He grew up in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, the oldest of 4 children, and he started to draw right away. My father made cartoons, and since I was little, I had been doing cartoons, creating characters and stories. As Keith grew up, he continued to draw and make art. He saw modern art when he visited museums in Washington, D.C. After high school, he went to art school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a year. He started making big drawings, and when he was 19, he had his first public show. In 1978, Keith moved to New York City to go to a different art school. He loved being in the big city. There were big museums with all kinds of art. There were many young artists working in his neighborhood, and there was a lot of energy on the street. In New York, he found his style. I bought a roll of oak tag paper and cut it up and put it all over the floor and worked on this whole group of drawings. The first few were abstracts, but then the images started coming. They were humans and animals in different combinations, and flying saucers were zapping the humans. I remember trying to figure out where the ideas came from, but I had no idea. Then Keith started seeing empty black pieces of paper on the subway. He knew this was a perfect place for him to draw. He started making his subway drawings every day. I'm going to show you that. So he used to draw on these black papers in the subway. So when I drew in the daytime, which meant there were always people watching, from little kids to old ladies to art historians. And that is a picture of him drawing in the subway. And Keith started to become famous. All the people riding the subway saw his work, and it was also on the TV and in the newspaper. And that is a picture of him, and there's one of his drawings in front of above him. So Keith also started showing his work in art galleries where many people started to buy them. I wanted to sell my paintings because it would enable me to quit my job, whether as a cook or delivering houseplants or whatever else I was doing, and paint full time. In his first show in New York, he painted all the walls with his art and then put up his paintings and his sculptures. Hundreds of people came to the opening party, and it was a big success. I'm going to show you a picture of the gallery. So that is the gallery. Those are his sculptures, and he has drawn on the walls, and the whole floor is black and white, and it's very cool looking. The whole thing looks awesome. Now Keith worked harder than ever. He traveled all around the world to show his work. He had shows in Europe, Japan, and all over the US. He even painted the entire side of a church in Italy. And here is the picture that I showed you, but it's in color. You see all those people? And this is why we're doing his drawings for Music Week. So as you can see, these are images of people, and they look like they're dancing. And we're going to kind of use his style to draw some people dancing to music. So in the end, Keith Haring's paintings and sculptures became very expensive. He wanted everyone to be able to buy his work, so he opened a new store called the Pop Shop to sell his art on posters, buttons, t-shirts, and games. He also worked with children in schools to paint large murals with them, and he made paintings and sculptures for schools and hospitals in many places. So he worked with kids, and he really thought it was important to be able to share his artwork with everyone and not just the people that could spend lots and lots of money for it. So we are going to be using Keith Haring's style to draw some dancing people for our music week and to start with our drawing class. So I'm going to turn the screen down and you guys are going to see my workspace, and I have a couple of words written down on my workspace just so I remember to call them out. So obviously we're going to be drawing dancing people. Now when you look at Keith Haring's people, you'll see that they are people. You can tell that they're people. They have a head and they have arms and they have legs, and but they're very simplified. So they are representative, so they actually, you can tell what they are. They're not abstract, they're representative, but they're simplified so that they almost become symbols. So very simplified, they are symbolic of a person, but you can't tell who it is. There isn't a face drawn, and it's more of a symbol of a person than an actual representation or drawing of a realistic person. So as we are drawing our drawing, we want to keep that whole simplified shape. We want to make sure that we are showing the movement. So as you can see, there are all these little lines around the people, and those are showing that the person is moving. So it has movement. It's a repeated pattern that shows rhythm and energy. So these lines right here, these are called echo lines because they echo the shape of the person, and they also show movement and energy, rhythm, and dance. So we are going to be using the shape of the person. So these are the elements of art we're using. The shape of the person. We're going to be using lines to make the person, but also lines to show movement and energy. And then we're going to color them. So this one's just a black and white copy, but we are going to be doing color. Okay, so as far as supplies, today is a pretty easy class. All you need are paper, and you need a pencil, and you need, hopefully, pencil with an eraser. This one I got from Denver Comic-Con. And you need some coloring tools. There's my whole box of coloring tools. You can use markers or crayons, and you'll need a black marker. So I have a Sharpie. It doesn't have to be permanent because you're not going to be using any kind of water-based paint, but it just has to be pretty dark. So I'm going to take my tools, put them to the side. So I've got my pencil, my marker, my coloring box. I'm going to have this as my sample, and I'm going to cover up these words. So we're going to make the dancing people using simplified shapes that turn into a symbol of a person. It's not an actual real person or a realistic person. We're going to have lines that signify movement and rhythm and energy. So those are the lines. Shape is the symbol. And then we're going to color them at the end. So I am going to show you first how we're going to make our people, okay? And I don't want you to get started yet. I'm going to erase these guys because those are too far down for you to see. So if you've ever drawn stick figures before, that's pretty much how we're going to start. And I'm just going to show you first, so don't draw on your paper yet. We're going to start with a person's head, and this line is his body. Then you can do his legs with his little feet at the bottom, and then his hands. or his arms and hands. Okay, so that is my simplified stick figure person, and this is how we start for Keith Haring's drawings as well. As you can see, his drawings have a little bit more width, so we're going to start to give our person a little bit more width. So his neck ends up being like that. Then you can draw his arms and his hand. And I'm just demonstrating now, and then in a little bit we'll move to the piece of paper. Then you can give him his body and then his legs. Okay, so obviously then you can come in and erase your lines from your stick figure. And ta-da! So that is my Keith Haring person. Then I can put some energy lines around him. And now he looks like he's kind of getting into the music, right? He's starting to dance. So we are going to start drawing our people. First, I just wanted to, so say this person, he's really getting into the music and then he really starts to dance. He's got one hand up, he's got one hand down. How are you going to turn this guy into a Keith Haring person? We're going to draw around it, give him a little bit more weight, give him a body, and now he is also dancing. And we can erase these lines. So before you get started, I want you to think about the shapes that you make and how you dance when you hear music. So maybe you bend your knees, and you have your hands up like this. So how do you dance? You can make him a little bit bigger. And if you, when you erase these lines after you draw your drawings, it's okay if they show up a little bit because we're going to color them in. And when you color them in, it covers up a lot of those. Okay? So those are some examples of how we can make our dancing Keith Haring drawing. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put my paper here, and I'm putting it portrait, landscape, so sideways. So sideways, not up and down. Sideways like this. And this is called landscape. And I'm going to erase my people so they don't get on the back of my paper. And maybe I'll keep them. Can you see them? You can kind of see through. It's okay. Okay, so I'm going to get my pencil. And I am going to draw some dancing people on my page. So with my page sideways like this, I can probably get maybe 1, 2, or possibly 3. But let's try for 2. And if we end up getting 3, then that's totally fine. Okay, so how did I start? I started with my head. Some of the ones that were dancing, I started with the feet. It doesn't really matter which one you start with, but then I'm going to do, let's see some of these guys. Which ones do I like? I like, do you see all these examples of dancing people? I like this person right here. So he's got his hands up, but he's got his feet down. He actually has a hula hoop. So I'm not going to do the hula hoop, but I'm going to draw him as my stick figure. So that's his body and his legs. And then his hands are up. Like that. Okay? So now I can make him just a little bit bigger. And I'm actually going to start down at the bottom and I'm going to work up. So this one I'm giving feet, and then I'm going to make his body, and then his hands. Bless you. That was my 16-year-old. And that is my first person. So now I have to erase his, oh great, now I don't have an eraser. As I said, you should always have an eraser. Mine is kind of small. Okay, so if you're like me, and when you erased, it made it smudgy like that. That's okay, because now I get to color him in, and I'm gonna make this guy blue. So I'm gonna color him in. Trying to get them all nice and colored in. Then I'm going to take my permanent marker and I'm going to trace around him. Now, as you're tracing around him, I want you to think about what kind of movement lines you're going to add. Maybe he's actually jumping into the air. And then for your movement lines, you can do them first in pencil if you want. So say he's jumping in the air and he's waving, oh, he's yelling. Let's make those yelling noises. And he's waving his hands. I think that's pretty good. Let's see. Now look at this one. So you can see the hula hoop guy that I used. He is right here. He has some lines here. Okay, so I am going to draw over them with my marker. And ta-da! That is my first dancing herring person. So he kind of looks like he's jumping. Okay, next person. Let me see. I am going to do one that is dancing, and maybe he's got one arm up and one arm down, and he's got his legs running. So maybe he's doing like the Running Man. So I'm going to do two people. If you have enough space for a third one, you can do a third one, but I'm going to show you how to do these guys. So here's his body. Let's do one hand down and one hand up, and let's do, and this one's going to be going like, like that. So he's really getting crazy. So then you keep the head, you can build up his whole body. erase the lines that you don't want. And this one, I am going to make red. Maybe he is listening to his favorite song and he is getting very excited about dancing. And I'm going to outline him. And I'm thinking about his energy lines. And I think I'm going to do echo lines for his whole body. So sometimes Keith Haring did that. He did like a repeated shape of the body around. So we kind of went around like this. And maybe this is because he is moving so fast, he's got like a repeated line around him. And let's give him some energy lines. And that is our second guy. So another fun thing that you can do is you can make lines that go all the way around. So like you could do like zigzag lines around this guy. Maybe he's listening to his music really loud. And you can have like zigzag lines all the way around him. Just like that. And you can even do like a second row or a third row, or you could color them different colors. But this guy's got a lot of energy. Awesome. Okay, so that's one person, two person, and let's do you see this person right here? It's like a little baby. So I'm gonna do my last one. I'm gonna do a little baby kind of crawling on the ground and dancing while they're crawling. Okay, let me make sure I lost my pencil. So where'd it go? It's right there. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the head and the body, and little baby's got one leg, and then just like that. So do you see my sample is right here, and there's a little baby drawing right there. So I am going to do the same thing. Even though it's a little baby, you build in the same way. You build up from the stick figure. And you erase those lines that you don't want. And then you can color them in. This little baby, I'm going to make green. So what I think is really great about Keith Haring is he started drawing when he was really young, and he just kept on drawing. I believe there's a book about him, and I think the title of the book is called The Boy Who Just Kept Drawing. I'll have to check on that. You can find it on the Haring website. I think it should be on there, haringkids.com. But everyone should definitely go check out that website because he is a really cool character. He lived in New York City, and he really developed his style there. And I actually lived in New York City too, so I really think that he is. You know what? I'm going to give him just a little bit more. Right here. So that is my crawling person, the baby, and here is Keith Haring's one, and I'm going to give him some energy lines. Some right there. Oh, and he's crawling really fast, so we can do that. And some more right here. And there you go. So that is our lesson today. We have our dancing people for Music Week. We got a little baby dancing while they're crawling. We got this person listening to super loud music, and he's like jumping up in the air. This person is also jumping, but you know they've got their hands in the air and their legs are straight. So they are just different ways for you to draw your people. And once again, the artist that we were referencing was Keith Haring. The words that we worked on were symbol, movement, and rhythm. So the shape of the person is a very simplified person, almost symbolic. We use lines to signify movement, energy, and rhythm. And then we colored in our people. So once again, this is a sample of Keith Haring's work. Everybody, if you get a chance, go to, I want to make sure I say it right, haringkids.com. So haringkids.com. And you can learn about Keith Haring there. There's sections for his bio, his art, his books, and there are also lesson plans. So you can learn a little bit more about him and do some more art lessons based on his work. So I'm going to turn the screen up and we can say goodbye. That beeping noise was actually my son. He was making himself some lunch, so I apologize for the beeping, but he's standing right there. He is 12, and sometimes he does the lessons along with me. But next class is Thursday, and we are going to have a colored guitar collage class. On the event page, I posted some shapes for your guitar, so if you get a chance before class, definitely look at those. We're going to be live streaming Thursday at 1, and I hope to see you then. Thank you guys for coming and drawing with me. If you did the project with me, definitely, or even if you're watching later and watching the live stream later, saved on Facebook or YouTube, send the art sample or your artwork to me at info@firehouseart.com, and I can paste it on. I can put it on the Facebook page for the Firehouse Art Center. But once again, thanks for coming. I will see you next class, and bye.